I'm Gary MacDonald. May 10th is municipal election day here in Saint John. Incumbent Mayor Don Darling had announced some time ago he would not seek a second term. Now, with the close of nominations on April 9th, 4 people declared for the position of mayor, including Mel Vincent. Join me now for a conversation with him about his vision for and commitment to Saint John. Mel Vincent, why did you decide to offer for mayor of Saint John?
Thank you, Gary. Certainly a big part of the decision-making process is why you're getting in. And for me, it's a multitude of reasons. One, growing up in a very political family, honorable calling is the way we viewed public service. Got to watch one of our city's best do it for 30 years and certainly provided a lot of great mentorship to us as a family of 5 growing up in East Saint John. We, about 3 years ago when we lost Dad, my son and I, who would have been 5 at the time, went for a little drive as we were preparing for some of Dad's service. And we took a drive down King Street, saw the flags lowered in his honor, drove by City Hall, where obviously my little guy's grandfather spent a lot of time, drove by Market Square, project that Dad chaired, drove by the Aquatic Center. Dad chaired the bid to bring us the Canada Games. And it started me thinking, what's my legacy going to be? What am I going to do to make this little guy in the back seat proud of me and what I've accomplished? Now, we've been active in giving back to our community, all of our life, but it certainly made it far more real at that point in time. And so that reflection, strongly began 3 years ago. The desire to serve and the interest to serve has always been paramount in my mind. Didn't know what that legacy was going to be, but we started to think. And then as we got closer and closer to this election, after it being postponed for a year, saw a void in leadership. Listened to many people around the city say, who's going to run for mayor? Who's going to run for mayor? Nobody is stepping up, and asked ourselves the proverbial question: if not me, then who? Kept coming back to the me, and my wife and I began a long discussion. Political life is difficult for the individual, but it's more difficult on the family. So my wife and I, talked for weeks at time, and came to the decision that, probably there's nothing that excites me more, gets my heart beating faster and my pulse going a little quicker. So she said, Mel, I think you got to do this. And then we began the discussion with people around the community, and one after another kept telling us, it's time. And so we're here to give back to our community, to try to make it a little better than what we found it, and excited and looking forward to it.
Now, you mentioned leadership a moment ago, and on your webpage, you also mentioned leadership. How do you define leadership as far as the mayor's position is concerned?
Well, I think you got to be quite diverse. You got to bring a whole multitude of skills to the table. I mean, Saint John is full of a lot of different individuals and different companies and spirit. Our history is diverse as we are, and I think that's the skill set I bring. I don't really fit into a single box. Today we're building a house, and I'm working in the trenches with my carpenters and electricians and plumbers. This afternoon I'll be in front of a couple of boardroom tables and working with more business-like minded individuals. This evening, I'm going to take my little guy to play some ball hockey, and we'll be working with our recreational community. And to me, that's leadership. You've got to be able to adapt your style to fit the needs of the people in front of you. And if there's one characteristic or skill that I've really been able to uniquely possess most of my life, is there's not too many rooms I can't walk into and be able to feel comfort and at ease, and to make those people around me feel the same way.
You have experience in the back end of provincial, federal, various agencies. How do you translate that to your leadership role as a mayor?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Gary, it's kind of funny in one sense. At 55, I'm probably entering my 50th year of active politics when I look back to when I started knocking on doors for a particular candidate. And but in reality, to me, it's about 35 years of pretty active involvement at all three levels. I've got to know who the people are, how government works at all three levels, and today I'm very much uniquely engaged with the leaders that are making decisions and impacting our city. And I think that's critical. To be able to walk into a room and not have to introduce yourself is an enviable position to be in, and that's one I hold. And likewise, they don't have to tell me who they are. I know them as well. And on all sides of the political aisle, we've been engaged and active. We've been regarded as somebody who was fair, worked hard. Worked tirelessly for whatever issue we were advocating for, but at the end of the day, it's going to serve me well, and I think will be a tremendous asset to the city.
What are the 3 key points in your platform?
Well, I struggle with the word platform, and I struggle with the word "my" because as mayor, it's a collective effort. And I don't think any one person can bring a platform or a policy to the table. But having said that, I think the issues in Saint John are pretty clear. We have to grow our population. We're at that critical juncture, and the competitive guy inside of me struggles to sit number 2 in our provincial population, and frankly, we're not far from being overtaken by Fredericton. And being normally from the largest city in this province is something I was always proud to say, and we've got to get our numbers back up because so much hinges on it. Our businesses can't succeed, our tax base can't grow, our community can't grow. So population growth is fundamentally critical. Just as almost as equally as critical is growing our tax base. We struggle today just to pay for those basic necessities that every citizen in the city wants, and without tax base growth, there's a lot of painful days ahead of us. And I certainly look to my business experience to help us grow the tax base, understand what needs to be done and how it's going to happen. And then just as almost as important is our community. We've got aging infrastructure, in the ground, above the ground, recreational facilities that haven't been touched in a long time. It's a big list, and it's going to be difficult. And in that community piece, I look at extremely important is poverty reduction. We've talked about this for decades. We've spent millions of dollars, a lot of resources, and frankly, I think it may have even gotten worse. So we've really got to put some focus and some detail. I look at the approach that we've provided to date, and I think somebody told me recently there's about 125 different organizations working on some level of poverty reduction, and it's been that way for a long time. It's not working. I think we've got to find a more focused approach, and together with those issues, we've got a lot of work to do in front of us.
Now, some would say, though, that that's really not a municipal responsibility. How do you respond to that?
Well, to me, looking after people is a government responsibility, regardless of what level. And as a mayor and as a council, our first priority is always to look after people. And if they're not thriving and they're not succeeding, then it is our issue. You're right. Fundamentally, in the hierarchical approach of government, that falls to the other levels. But I think it has to be a part of our decision making. We need to look at population and economic growth with that in mind. For example, our core uptown right now today is very healthy. Cranes in the sky is a great view to have, and it's going to help us in so many ways. However, what I don't want to see happen is, the gentrification of one group of people for the benefit of another, and that concerns me. I don't want to see people shuffled around as our core gets stronger, and that very fundamentally falls into the municipal government's responsibility. So, I think it's everybody's responsibility. It's your responsibility. It's my responsibility, whether we hold the offices or jobs that we do. Leaving people behind is just not something that should be happening in today's world, particularly in a country as rich and as prosperous as ours.
Now, the city has embarked on a 10-year financial plan. And leading up to that, there were some tough choices and decisions to be made. And I'll get into one of those areas in a moment. But are you prepared to continue through with that plan?
Yeah, Gary, I applaud particularly our mayor for the fine work he has done in championing that 10-year fiscal plan. And, we're just getting into it. And even some of the plan wasn't put together with the thought or the vision we'd be in a pandemic right now. But however, it's still a solid vision and a solid long-term plan. And, in all my years in politics, one of the things I've always struggled and been challenged with is watching one administration come in and remove the work of the previous. And I really feel strongly that we need to continue to build upon what has been is a solid foundation. I think it's heading us in the right direction. I mean, of course, at the end of the day, we wish we all had an unlimited pot and could do whatever we wanted, but that's not the case. So, this plan will get us to where we need to be. I think it's a strong signal to our outlying communities that our fiscal house is shaping up, and I think it'll give them more incentive and opportunity to want to work with us. It was necessary, and I certainly applaud the mayor for his fine leadership in getting that done.
One of the tougher decisions that they had to make as part of the financial strategy was the reduction in budgets for police and fire. It seems to be, if nothing else, a real hot button emotional issue within the community at any given time, whether you're in a campaign or outside of a campaign.
Right.
How do you balance that? Because there is a fair amount of pressure exerted at times at the union level to try and change things around. How do you work with that? Yeah,
I think looking from the view that I've been able to look from, to me, a lot of our challenges come down to communication. I've met with a lot of the stakeholders. I have many friends who serve in those different protective services. I am, technically the son of a firefighter. Though Dad spent most of his career in the fire marshal's office, I know that industry extremely well, and thank them every day for the service they bring. But the reality is yes, we are in a tough fiscal situation, and the men and women in those agencies know it as well as you and I do. The second part of that issue is making sure that the work environment we have in front of them is conducive to their well-being, and that's the one that I think probably has been damaged the most. And I sense there's almost a demoralized workforce in our community, and I understand a little bit of it from both perspectives. But my approach is when you have an issue and you need to deal with something, and whether it's fire and police or economic development, you need to bring the people together at the table, have a good, honest, thorough discussion. And generally, I find that all groups and stakeholders, if they truly do have the success of our community at hand, and I do truly believe that, then I think you can work through and solve these problems that we have. And it's not just dollars and cents that give people a reason to come to work. A lot of other ones are much deeper than that. And I think we can work with our four civic unions here, the inside and outside workers, police and fire department, and they're truly a great asset. I think their level of professionalism is second to none, and I know they care, and I know we can bridge the gaps and the differences that we have today.
The campaign this time around is different with the pandemic, and the actual opportunity for contact with people has been diminished significantly. But you must be talking to residents. What are you hearing from them?
Yeah, I've never sat down to count how many elections I've been involved in, but frankly, it's a lot, and this one has been by far the most unique one. I've always believed in the process to go door to door and talk to people on their doorstep where they're most comfortable, and though yes, we're legally allowed to do that, I just morally and ethically don't feel comfortable in doing it. I don't know what their tolerances to risk are, and I just wouldn't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable to come to the door. So it's been a challenge. We've done some kind of public outdoor meet and greets at various locations around our city. Tonight, we're up by the Forest Hills ball field, an area that's near and dear to me. This is where I live and grew up, and we're certainly getting a chance to talk to a lot of folks. And everybody understands the issues, Gary. They know what we're up against. There's no surprises. This election is about selecting an individual that can best help guide us and lead us through this. I don't think any of the candidates are even really talking issues, unlike the ones you and I discussed earlier. So the issues are known. They like some things that have been done, and they're looking for somebody that they can relate to. And I think that's a lot of our candidacy. We're, I grew up in a pretty average family, typical middle class Saint John family. There's 5 of us. Dad worked outside the house. Mom worked inside. Our neighborhood was a pretty active, engaged group, and I think that's what people want. They want to talk to somebody who understands their successes, understands their failures. I mean, I've owned a lot of different businesses in my life. Some have done very well, some haven't, and I know that success and failure and pains that can come with it. And it, I think as we go forward and listen to what our citizens have, they all get it. They know what we're up against, and just looking for somebody that they can believe in and trust in, and can help lead them through this.
One final question, and that is, if elected, are you committed to serving the full 4-year term and not perhaps at some point being persuaded to jump provincially or federally?
Wow, I hadn't even contemplated that question, Gary. Good veteran like you would think of that. Absolutely, Gary. I'm here for 4 years. My commitment is for 4, and for me, sure, it would be an honor to look at other, but today we want to be the mayor. There's 1 term in me, maybe 2. I won't follow in the other Mel Vincent's footsteps and do it for 30. I can promise you that. I don't think I've got 30 in me. So to me, this is a 1 to 2 year term commitment, and I've got no eye on any other seat now or probably for the conceivable future.
Mel Vincent, thank you very much.
Gary McDonald, real pleasure to talk to you again and see you, my friend. Thank you.
Mel Vincent is one of 4 candidates wanting to be the next mayor of Saint John. Our conversation with candidate Donna Reardon is also available on the newsysj.ca website and YouTube channel. Candidate Daryl Bastarash did not accept our invitation for an interview, while Howard Yeomans said he would like to take part, but didn't have access to Zoom or Skype for the interview. I'm Gary MacDonald. Thank you for watching.